Alright guys, so here's my next video. I hope you like the playmat, but there's like 13 girls on here, but try to ignore that fact. Anyway, I'll be talking about legendary creatures, the equipment that you'll be using, in the core deck that I built around when it comes down to legendary creatures, which are the all 5 Predators. Super fun and super painful, but they always make the game interesting, so that's the point. Also, the support. You cannot forget the support to make 5 colors work, legendary or not. So, let's start with the lands here. So pretty much the highest count would obviously be green for ramp and stuff. The next highest count would probably be blue for interaction, white also for interaction, black to help for mana fixing, and red is just for utility. And I guess I forgot about some of these multi cards like Mana Confluence, Command Tower, because they add mana fixing elements to the deck. So yeah, I did kind of forget about those. But briefly put, in order to make a deck work, you need to find out how many permanents that you have different colored mana symbols, and you have to do calculations on what's a good percentage to donate to put down for the different colors. Like if you have 20 white cards, 15 blue cards, and so on, you would have to do calculations on what's a good number. Hopefully this will be a little better and easier. So, let's start off first here. This is a new card. Untadaki, the Cloud Keeper. I'm having trouble pronouncing it. But long story short, it's basically a Temple to False God. It enters tapped, so a bit of a drawback there. Again, it's a new card, but it did play very well and very nice in a 5-color legendary deck. Especially with the fact that they came out with sorceries. I expect them to come out with legendary instants within the next 2 years. Gemstone Cavern is a really fun way to ramp at the cost of a card if you have a good hand, and Nykthos is useful about 30 to 40% of the time, but don't always count on it. Seer Sanctum, I've been working with it, and it's really hard. Cards like god dang, what's his name? Crewfix, Prismatic Omen, cards like that really make the deck work well, and a new addition would be Godsend, because it's a legendary artifact. Okay, never mind. That doesn't work at all. Anyway, moving on here. I thought it was a legendary enchantment, but point of case is I'm still working with this for the legendary multiplayer edition. Going briefly into the lands real quick. Flagstones and Trocaire. It works well with Gitrog, and it works really well with Titania for land ramping and drawing, and a combination of additional playing additional lands per turn. Seer Sanctum. Oh, I just love the card art. It's not key, but it's super fun to play with, but the highlight of this deck is easily mixed between three cards. I cannot stress this enough. Minimo, untapping a target legendary permanent, Urberg, Tome of Yawgmoth, mana fixing. It is easily probably the best of the 3 cards. The last card would be Guy's Cradle. Very powerful, but it is hilarious when you start out with turn 1 and absolutely doing nothing with it. Yeah, that's happened like twice. Teferi's Isle is a piece of garbage. Don't ever run it, unless you're just doing it like what I am. Comes into play tapped, and it has phasing. So, on the 3rd turn, is it actually useful? It's good for a turn 1 play, so that on the 3rd turn, you actually have double blue. Because the card itself is not entirely like the worst card, but it is bad. Phasing comes in play tapped and provides 2 blue mana. You can, from time to time, use Minimo to untap it for advantage. However, the only advantage you're getting is if Vorinclex is in play. Yeah. Teleria removes banding from target creature at the beginning of the upkeep. Yeah, very selective, and I've never had to use the ability. It's pretty funny, though. Tome of Urami, it's a win con with Titania, and it allows you to draw one card with Gitrog. However, here's the irony, is if you're running another select card, let me find it real quick and I'll pull it out here for you. If you're running another select card, it's just brutal. Yumiju bars the way. This is mandatory. A mandatory of, yeah, I just lost a legendary land, and it goes back to its owner's hands. So not only do you make, not only do you sack all your lands to make one legendary 5/5 Black Demon Spirit with flying, name Urami into play, but you get all your lands back to your hand. You can do a lot of damage with that. You could also screw yourself over, too, royally. Shizo, surprisingly, I've used it a few times because it gives fear. Hammerhine removes land walking from target creature until end of turn. Shinka, First Strike, they're utility lands and somewhat decent. Okinu gives target legendary creature +1/+1. It's not too shabby. Now, these are more utility lands. Basically, for 5 mana, you sack a creature to shock someone or something. You regenerate target legendary creature, and this one is probably the most useful because you get to put any of your legendary creatures from the graveyard on top of your library. It's useful if you're trying to win, or you're trying to keep something from being exiled, or if you just have like a Maelstrom Wanderer on the bottom of your library, or maybe, God forbid, an Edric, which is a legendary propaganda, if you ask me. Academy Ruins, only if you got good artifacts you don't want to lose. And last but not least, Core Haven, which is your legendary fog. It's okay. I liked it. I've used it a few times, kept me alive for a few rounds. Yeah. So long story short, get your mana base straight, get your mana base fixed. If you're gonna do a legendary version, you want to make sure you're. This is what I recommend: bounce lands, because they're just a cheap way of mana fixing, and if you do it right, you can play something, and turn 3. You play a spell, and then when you tap out for it, you'll just play a bounce land, bounce it back to your hand, and it's no tempo loss whatsoever if you do it right. It took me a while, but these 5 mana fixing cards, the one that make Command Tower, City Brass, Mana Confluence, Forbidden Orchard, Path of Ancestry, are very useful, and they make whatever mana you want. Path of Ancestry comes into play tap, which does suck, but it is a common, and if you're doing something like Legendary Dragons, it will allow you to scry, which is useful. And 2 Shocklands. They're specifically dealing with planes because of Flagstones of Troykair, which when it goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, you get to ramp. It's not bad. It's pretty decent. All right.